The courtroom saga surrounding P. Diddy has taken another jarring turn, and this time, it involves a name no one expected: Ashton Kutcher. For years, the two had been seen side by side, sharing stages, champagne toasts, and million-dollar deals. They weren't just business associates. They were brothers in arms within what insiders called the New Hollywood Rat Pack, a high-powered clique led by Diddy, known for lavish parties and whispered about secrets. But that bond came crashing down in Manhattan federal court when Ashton, once a loyal confidant, stepped forward, not to defend, but to expose. It left many asking, what happened behind the velvet ropes to cause this sudden rupture? And why now? Kutcher's courtroom entrance was nothing short of cinematic. Tension swept through the building as he appeared with his attorney, eyes locked on the man he once toasted with. And when he took the stand, what followed wasn't denial, nor sympathy. It was revelation. He spoke not just as a celebrity, but as a witness, one who had seen the darker shades of Diddy's glittering empire. According to Ashton, their friendship had started innocently enough. Vintage wines, sun-drenched villas, yachts with no clocks or windows, a surreal life detached from reality. But behind the glitz, he slowly began to see the mechanics of control. NDAs that served as shackles, young women chauffeured into luxury homes, substances passed freely, and a climate where fear was currency. It wasn't just debauchery, it was domination, Ashton implied. Parties where humiliation was orchestrated, and power was flaunted under the guise of pleasure. Kutcher revealed a chilling moment during a yacht gathering when he confessed unease to Diddy about the entire setup. The girls, the drugs, the secrecy. Diddy's response? A laugh followed by the unsettling advice to stop overthinking and enjoy the power. That night cemented a shift for Ashton. What once looked like freedom now felt like a trap. Still, the ties between them deepened beyond friendship, into business. Diddy pulled Ashton into ventures across fashion, tech, and entertainment, sealing their silence with shared profits. Ashton now calls that silence complicit. Over time, the illusion unraveled. Ashton said he began to recognize the machinery behind the New Hollywood Rat Pack, not a nostalgic throwback to the Rat Pack of Sinatra's day, but a new kind of syndicate. One built not on charm, but on unchecked power, enforced loyalty, and blurred moral lines. Years have passed since Ashton Kutcher found himself ensnared in the shadowy world surrounding Sean Diddy Combs. But now, at last, he's stepping forward, not out of convenience, but from a profound sense of obligation. I was once part of those games, he confessed, his voice heavy with regret and resolve. But the victims deserve truth. Even if it comes late, it's far better than letting those stories rot in silence. This candid admission marked a pivotal turning point in the trial, transforming Ashton from a mere Hollywood insider into a reluctant whistleblower, exposing a hidden nightmare. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifted palpably. The tension was almost suffocating, the air thick with anticipation as the judge's steady, uncompromising voice cut through the silence. The moment had arrived for Ashton to unravel the mystery behind the infamous freak-off parties, events tied directly to Diddy's name. Taking a slow, deliberate breath, Ashton scanned the room, his eyes meeting those of the jury, the judge, and the spectators, and began weaving a chilling narrative that exposed the disturbing underbelly of a world that had once dazzled him with its luxury, but had now revealed itself as deeply corrupt and morally decayed. His testimony transported everyone into a realm where opulence masked depravity, where the gleam of crystal chandeliers and the shimmer of golden ceilings couldn't hide the shadows lurking beneath. The so-called freak-off parties were not merely wild celebrations. They were orchestrated spectacles designed to flaunt power and perpetuate a culture of silence and submission. Ashton described these gatherings as toxic environments where boundaries were shattered and vulnerability was exploited. He spoke of the eerie atmosphere, the dim lighting, the music pulsing like a heartbeat, the subtle but pervasive sense of unease among many of the young women present. Faces masked by forced smiles, movements dictated by unseen pressures, and a dangerous blurring of consent were common threads in these gatherings. Ashton's voice grew heavier as he recounted moments when the line between entertainment and exploitation vanished completely, replaced by acts that were chillingly normalized within this elite circle. Beyond the parties, Ashton detailed the powerful mechanisms that sustained this culture of silence: non-disclosure agreements that served as shackles, threats veiled in promises, and a sprawling network of influence that ensured complicity. To speak out meant risking reputation, career, and even personal safety. The courtroom sat rapt as Ashton laid bare the psychological and legal chains that bound participants, turning witnesses into unwilling captives of fear. What Ashton revealed was not just a tale of excess, but a systemic abuse of power, a grim testament to how fame and fortune can be weaponized to protect predators and silence victims. His testimony pierced the glamorous facade, exposing a dark ecosystem where injustice thrived behind closed doors. In stepping forward, Ashton Kutcher did more than just testify. He challenged the entertainment industry's long-standing culture of silence. His words carried a powerful message: that the time for hidden horrors to fester is over, and that truth, no matter how late, must be heard and reckoned with. The trial had turned, and with Ashton's courage, a spotlight was cast on a world that many hoped would remain forever in darkness. What the public once saw as wild, high-profile parties among the elite was, according to Ashton, something far darker. Diddy's gatherings, masquerading as harmless indulgence, slowly revealed themselves to be carefully engineered events meant to exploit, control, and intimidate. Ashton recalled standing under dim lights at a sprawling Beverly Hills estate, watching as shadows moved through the haze of expensive liquor and whispered commands. What he first thought were scenes of eccentric excess soon looked more like orchestrated depravity. One night, unsettled by what he saw, Ashton confronted Diddy privately. "Something's wrong here," he told him. "Those girls, they don't look okay. I think we need to stop, just for tonight." Diddy's answer? A chilling grin and a dismissive tone. "They signed NDAs. Relax, this is our playground." That moment, Ashton said, made the hair on his arms rise. There was no empathy, just a calm declaration of control, layered with threat. He testified that the term freak-off wasn't just a nickname, it was a mission statement. These parties blurred every moral line: open drug use, coercion masked, as consent and behavior that grew more outrageous with each event. The women, many of them barely of age, weren't guests. They were objects in a perverse performance. And Diddy? He wasn't just a bystander. He was the ringleader, grinning. Through it all, the court grew silent as Ashton recounted another moment, music thundering, lights strobing, when he pulled Diddy aside again. "I need out. I don't want this." But Diddy's tone shifted colder. "Out? You think it's that easy? You signed the NDA. You're in the game. Don't forget what happens if you break the rules." Ashton explained that the NDAs weren't just documents. They were shackles. Often presented in the middle of chaos, substances clouding judgment, they left no room for refusal. These contracts didn't just protect secrets, they cemented silence through fear. Legal traps backed by whispered threats and reputational destruction. It wasn't just what he witnessed, Ashton said. It was how impossible it was to resist or escape once you were in. Diddy's power didn't scream. It whispered. A stare, a comment, a mysteriously vanished contract, or a rumor, unleashed like wildfire. Ashton said he came to understand the depth of Diddy's control too late. But standing there now, voice cracking with emotion, he declared he was done with silence. When Diddy's attorney challenged his motives, hinting at vendettas and business fallouts, Ashton didn't flinch. "I'm not here to shift blame," he said, eyes glassy. "I'm here because my conscience won't let me live with the silence anymore." And when Diddy, in a sudden burst of rage, lunged toward Ashton, restrained by security, the judge's gavel slammed down. Order was restored, but the damage was done. The courtroom had seen a flash of the storm lurking beneath the surface. Then came the file, thick, damning, filled with transaction logs, signatures, and receipts from an empire cloaked in decadence. Ashton opened it with trembling hands. "This," he said, "is how it all began, how I got pulled in. And now, how it must end. He didn't walk into opulence, he was swallowed by it. Ashton Kutcher described being lured into a surreal realm of luxury unlike anything he'd imagined. Palatial estates with pearl-inlaid walls, golden ceilings that shimmered like sunlit honey, and chandeliers twinkling like constellations suspended in air. Diddy's parties weren't just social events, they were fantasy lands for the elite, hosted on private islands and luxury yachts skimming over coral-lit waters, where gourmet meals were plated like museum exhibits and the wine poured was older than most of the guests. But beneath the sparkle, Ashton soon sensed a strange orchestration. Every detail, every gaze, every whispered conversation seemed choreographed. During a quiet moment in a private meeting, Ashton finally voiced what had been gnawing at him. "Where's all this money coming from?" he asked, warily. "These shell companies, something doesn't add up. Is this laundering?" Diddy, cool as ever, gave a diamond-hard stare and replied, "Don't dig, Ashton. Just sign the NDA, take your cut, and enjoy the ride." That was the moment Ashton began to pull away from the dazzling illusion. The glamorous veneer of Diddy's world was beginning to crack, revealing a far darker, more unsettling reality beneath. What had once seemed like extravagant parties and high-end indulgence was now unmistakably tied to something sinister, an intricate web of deception, control, and calculated concealment. The carefree glamour was a facade, and Ashton realized he was entangled in something far more dangerous than mere excess. In the courtroom, Ashton became a reluctant narrator of this hidden world. He carefully laid out the financial blueprint that supported Diddy's empire, a blueprint meticulously designed to hide the truth behind layers of legal and financial trickery. He began with the non-disclosure agreement, the infamous NDA. Holding the document up for all to see, Ashton's voice carried a weighty seriousness. "This is not just a piece of paper," he declared. "It was a muzzle, a chain that bound us to silence." The NDA wasn't just a formality, it was a weapon. It locked the participants' voices, ensuring that the dark realities behind the parties, the abuses, and the illegal activities remained hidden from the public eye and the law. As Ashton continued, he revealed a litany of evidence that mapped the contours of this secret financial network. He spoke of falsified purchases, expenses so extravagant and nonsensical they defied logic. Items were labeled as investments, but in reality served as smokescreens, shell games designed to disguise the true flow of money. These transactions were no accident or oversight. They were deliberate maneuvers crafted to keep illicit funds moving under the radar. One by one, Ashton unveiled layers of complexity. There were millions spent on art and luxury items, an ostentatious Picasso here, a gem-encrusted piano there, purchases that on the surface screamed wealth, but on closer inspection revealed no clear trail. Each purchase was carefully obscured. Through shell companies, entities created solely to shuffle money without scrutiny. These companies acted as invisible shields, making it nearly impossible to trace the origins of funds or to connect the dots between Diddy and the darker aspects of his empire. But the financial manipulations went deeper than just lavish spending. Ashton disclosed transactions linked to elaborate events, extravagant concerts held in midair by helicopter, parties illuminated by programmed fireworks, all financed by sums that exceeded reasonable costs. These inflated expenses were another layer of deception, disguising illicit sources of money while maintaining an appearance of grandeur. Perhaps the most disturbing were the so-called charitable donations. On paper, large sums flowed to schools, museums, and philanthropic causes. Yet, Ashton explained, these donations were anything but transparent. They served as a public relations tool, a way to polish a glamorous public image while simultaneously laundering dirty money behind the scenes. The generous veneer was a mask for a far grimmer reality. Through his testimony, Ashton painted a picture of a sprawling, shadowy financial machine that reinforced Diddy's power and protected his secrets. The network of shell companies, NDAs, and misleading transactions was not only about money, it was about control. It created a fortress of silence and fear, binding victims, witnesses, and insiders alike. Anyone who stepped out of line risked not just legal repercussions, but ruinous personal consequences. What Ashton revealed wasn't just a financial scandal. It was the backbone of a criminal empire. The paper trail told a story of manipulation, coercion, and cover-up. A carefully constructed system that kept the truth locked away, hidden behind layers of money and law, ensuring that Diddy's influence remained untouchable. "There's a Picasso," he said, lifting one sheet, "a gem-studded piano, even an entire island, all bought without legitimate records, just tools to launder money behind a veil of luxury." His voice dropped as he revealed another sheet. "This was for a helicopter concert. Yes, a party midair. The cost? Wildly inflated. That's how illicit cash gets cleaned. But the most disturbing piece? A transaction listed as a charitable donation. Money earmarked for schools and museums," Ashton claimed, yet completely untraceable. "It wasn't generosity," he said. "It was a smokescreen." What Ashton laid bare wasn't just a tale of financial fraud, it was the backbone of Diddy's power. A labyrinth of offshore accounts, ghost companies, and legal traps like NDAs, all functioning to launder cash, silence victims, and protect a brand built on control. And then came the twist no one expected. Ashton introduced another thread, his former co-star, Danny Masterson. This wasn't a random name drop. It was the next layer in a much larger machine. He didn't point the finger directly at Diddy and Masterson's case, but the implication was chilling. The same machinery that protected Diddy's secrets had been deployed to shield Masterson too. He spoke softly, but with weight. Media manipulation, PR hit jobs, victims painted as opportunists, articles mysteriously vanishing, glowing profiles of Masterson suddenly flooding the press. Ashton alleged Diddy orchestrated the response behind the scenes, not alone, but through an elusive go-between, a shadowy middleman who delivered Diddy's orders, liaised with the media, and ensured the narrative stayed spotless. This fixer, Ashton implied, kept Diddy's hands clean while maintaining a culture of silence. The courtroom leaned in as Ashton described this unseen architect, a figure who connected scandals, buried stories, and handled damage control for the right price. With that, Ashton wasn't just indicting Diddy, he was cracking open a system, a coordinated network of protection and manipulation stretching across Hollywood. As the weight of his testimony settled, the image of Diddy transformed, from party mogul to calculated puppeteer, a man who used money as both weapon and shield, hiding behind lawyers, NDAs, and middlemen while building an empire of fear. And with that, the trial shifted. It was no longer just about one man's misdeeds, but about a culture, an entire ecosystem that allowed them to fester. This was a reckoning. The message Ashton left behind echoed beyond the courtroom. If Hollywood is to cleanse itself of these entrenched abuses, it will take more than brave voices and court cases. It demands systemic change. Executives, studios, and gatekeepers must rewrite the rulebook, one that no longer protects predators with money and influence, but defends those too long silenced. As for us, the audience, the fans, the cultural consumers, it's time we stop, applauding wealth without questioning its source. Time to hold the powerful accountable. Time to care as much about ethics as we do about entertainment. The question lingers in the air. Is this the moment Hollywood truly turns a page? Or just another chapter in a book that never seems to end?